They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Loan you that college promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Program to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of all nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So we, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. This is Rogue Ways, and tonight on the second, maybe third episode of Season 4 of Rogue Ways, I am excited to welcome back for the third time a guest from Down Under who rules the alternative media scene in terms of cool-headedness, calm voiced analysis, peaceful walkabout expositions, and soul-shaking depth of insight. He's been bringing the world his gifts in the form of written, spoken, and video creativity for years, and we love him so much for these sharings. Please welcome back Max Igan of the Crowhouse. Max, thank you so much for returning to talk with us tonight.
Nice to be here, Donald. Thanks for asking me back on. Hopefully we'll get some bandwidth and actually be able to do it this time.
Yeah, it's nice when we can hit it in the middle of the night like this for you. That's perfect. It seems like it's the best quality we've ever had so far. Hopefully it sticks around. And I just want to remind people that they can go to rogueways.org for more content from me, and also support me at subscribestar.com/rogue-ways. I really appreciate all the support out there from all my roguesters, and you'll find plenty of cool stuff there that you won't find anywhere else. So, Max, as always, I like to start with a pointless question of the episode. And I wanted to ask you, Max, what you feel like is the best way to soothe either emotional or sort of mental pain when it rears its head in life. What's your favorite way of soothing that beast?
Well, I have no stake in the outcome of this experience, and this is just something that I've often said to people. You can't let yourself get attached to the outcome of plans that we have. Sometimes there's little side paths we need to go on. Going with the flow. I mean, sure, people can get stressed about the whole situation, but in crisis is opportunity. In all of this stuff is opportunity, and I think that the main reason for the state the world is in the state that it's in is due to a loss of self. And I think all of these crises give us an opportunity to find that self within ourselves if we're just okay to look and choose to look there. But we're always looking for the remedies externally to ourselves, which is why we get so stressed out, because the outside world isn't happening the way we want because we're not doing the inner work. So I think it's all opportunity, darling.
I am in absolute agreement. I love that answer. And I want to always add that I really like to spend time in nature when things like that are going on, because I feel like what you're saying is true, and you can find more easily the sort of root of who you are in that pain, and let go of all the rest when you're quiet in nature. It's easier, to sort of see through it all.
Well, that's where I live. So all I've got to do is really go outside for that. I've got the peacocks now. So you're probably right. I just kind of forget that most people are in cities, and
Right.
That's kind of where I am. All I actually have to do is open the door and walk outside. So yeah, I get that. So guess I'm lucky like that.
Yeah, you're lucky, and I'm sure it helps a lot. Well, I guess we'll dive right into it. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people are sick of probably even talking about it or hearing about it. But I do want to get your take on the things that are happening in the world, especially these worldwide protests and riots in support of George Floyd and against police violence, specifically in the United States. It's very interesting to see the whole world come together, not for their own nation, not for their own problems, but for the United States' police violence, allegedly. And so that, maybe if you want to give us a little thought about those phenomenon.
Yeah, look, people are just easily led, Darren, is the problem. I mean, it's terrible that anyone would die in the way George Floyd died. There's even debate over whether he did actually die. Of course, there always is. I mean, to me, I look at it. It's bad someone would die that way, but it happens. It happens a lot. There's a lot of police violence, and it should be addressed. Turning this into a racial issue, I think, is the wrong way to do it. There's actually a couple of couple of black guys did a great video about how this is wrong, and they said, actually, we're part of the black community in the United States, and you know what? Most of the black people that are killed in the black community are killed by the black community. So
Yeah.
why aren't we ever speaking out about that? And why aren't we ever speaking out about the white guys? Why is it this one guy has been used for this incredible focus? And of course, it's because of the lockdown. People are getting sick of the lockdown. People are really waking up to the fact that COVID is a scam, that none of this is really necessary. So they need to shift focus and get everybody screaming out about something else. And when it happened, I said they're going to use it to extend the lockdown. They're going to use it as an excuse for the next COVID outbreak, the second wave they've been warning us of.
Yeah.
And I put out a video saying that's what it was all for. And the next day, the newspaper articles are saying fears of second wave due to the breaking of social distancing guidelines. And, it was promoted by the media. It was promoted by governments. It was even Boris Yeltsin was in Parliament saying he supports people going out and protesting. He supports the lockdown, but he also supports people going out and protesting. What is it for? So many celebrities out there saying, yes, we support protests. Got to get out there and protest. 2 weeks ago, these people were telling you've got to stay inside. You've got to be in social distancing because you'll kill everybody. The whole world will die if you go out and associate with people. And now they're telling you to go out and protest. What's wrong with people? Why don't they have a memory that goes back longer than 24 hours?
Yeah.
This is all about creating the excuse for the next wave. And as I mentioned, underneath all of this is the contact tracing system that has gone in place, which is brutal in the United States. I've read the guidelines. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And all the people that have gone out and did all these protests, I guarantee they all had their cell phones on them. So what they're going to do is just say someone, well, Skype messages coming in here. People shouldn't be messaging me while I'm on air. But all they got to do is say, well, all you people, one of you people, now your mark is red, so you've got to be locked down, and everybody you've been associated with has got to be locked down, and it's going to go out and go out and go out. You've got thousands and thousands of people, and they'll be able to lock them down, even though they know there's nothing wrong with them, and even though they know it's all a scam. But all the soccer mums and all the Karens and the Aarons and the Billies and all the people out there who believe what the government says, they'll be really happy for these people to be locked down, and they'll be really happy for them to be dragged off to FEMA camps if they won't comply, because they'll think that they're a danger to them. And you've got to remember, I mean, they don't care about the population. They want to reduce the population to 500 million. How do you think they're going to do that and have the rest of the people allow them to do it and get away with it?
Yeah.
It's all part of the scam. It's all part and parcel to the same thing. So the protests are so contrived and right on cue to shift people's focus. And also in the same process, you put the left against the right. So you've got the blacks and the whites fighting each other, divide and conquer, infiltrate the movement with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which are essentially fascist organizations, which just go in and destroy stuff.
Yeah.
So, it creates everything the media needs to push this to the next level. Very, very contrived, Dal.
Very contrived. I agree. And it makes it very hard to talk to people about it because people are really caught up emotionally in the actually lived true experiences of pain and suffering that exist in our society. And of course those things are real, and of course nobody wants those things to happen. And like you said, it's horrible for someone to be killed by police. If this person was killed, they could have picked any of the murders. There's a lot of them each year, but they picked this one for some reason. The timing, I guess, was right. And so you can kind of see the contrived nature of it when you look into things like that. It's like, why did it all of a sudden explode now and not, a month before, 3 months before, 4 months before? The last time we heard from Black Lives Matter was 2016, also an election year. And then, the fact, like you were saying, that now we have these political heads of state that are encouraging people to go out and participate in this is kind of madness. And it should be the red blinker that like alerts people who don't normally pay attention and be like, wait a second, when these people were, like you said, just telling us we couldn't go outside or we would die, but now we should go outside in mass numbers and destroy and kill, as we do it, and that this is somehow right. I don't know if you saw that letter signed by 1,000 or more health professionals that said, literally in like a magical double think, like an Orwellian double think, double speak, they said, you both should go out and protest Black Lives Matter because it is essential to Black people's health, and we're health professionals, and so we respect that. But you should not protest at reopening because it's against health recommendations and it's racist. It's white nationalists who are protesting to reopen. And I'm like, Like, people bought that without question.
It's complete doublespeak. You
It's
should
crazy.
not ever fucking go out and associate with people because you may kill everybody if you get too close. But it's okay to go and protest against Black Lives Matter because you're doing it for a righteous cause.
Yeah.
But you won't poison yourself while you're doing that, even though there's a deadly disease that you should stay away from. It doesn't make any sense at
No
all.
sense.
So yeah, I mean, it's amazing how people can't see that, you know. So yeah, complete doublespeak, and it's amazing the media just gets away with it, you know.
Yeah. And it is hard because there are, you know, I'm sure all of us can admit there's racism exists, and there's no reason we shouldn't talk about it or address it. And we also have to ask again, like, why now? How in this contrived way? What Black Lives Matter? I don't know if you saw this video of this young man. This was also 2016, I think. He had been a part of organizing Black Lives Matter, and he's a young black man, and he left the movement because he saw how it was infiltrated. And I think any of us who have done sort of political organizing have seen the infiltrators come in. As soon as you get big enough to be noticed, the infiltrators come in and they start taking over, and they're really, really good at their job. And so this movement has been co-opted for years. And you can't, it's hard to get anyone to look and see that because they just want to fight for justice, you know?
Well, they just want to fight. They're just angry, and it's mob think. You know, I don't know whether you saw the video of Dan Dix getting arrested in Canada. I mean, he was little Dan. He's only a little guy, and he's a truther. He's a very peaceful, very intelligent man. He is not a racist.
No.
He was not a racist, and he's just out there reporting on what's going on.
Yeah.
And people just saw him and said, "Oh, you're the guy from the video that someone else accused of being a racist. So that's it, and you can't argue with black women." And that's it. And the whole crowd turned on him, and they would have ripped him to pieces. And the police actually had to get him out of there for his safety. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Mob think, and mainly, you know, young white women so programmed into this fascist attitude, thinking that they're against fascism. It's remarkable. I remember when I was in Germany in 2016. And I was doing a talk in Germany, and they said to me, "Oh, you've got to be very careful of the people here, some of the activists, because we have these groups that are anti-fascist fascists." And I'm like, how can you have an anti-fascist fascist? How does this work? I just couldn't understand the mentality. And then Antifa appeared on the scene, and I'm like, so this is what they're talking about in Germany. And it's incredible. It's such a blatantly, brutally fascist organization, just complete mob mentality. And it calls itself anti-fascist. I mean, even the name Antifa, anti-fascism. It's and it's exactly the opposite of what they are. You can't fight fascism with fascism. It's like fighting fire with fire. It doesn't work, you know.
Yeah, and it's really Orwellian. It's like George Orwell really hit the nail on the head with how they were going to mind screw us here, and you know, call left, right, and up, down, and just confuse everyone, and people get so caught up in it, and they just roll along with it. And like you said, if you question it or if you push back in any way, like now the mob's going to be sent to destroy you, and there's no rationale. There's nothing calm, you know, there's no space where you can actually explore these things. You're just labeled and it's done.
Yeah, all it takes is for someone to shout out. That's the problem. And that's what you saw with that Dan Dix situation, was he was having a polite conversation with someone. And then a woman came over and said, "Oh, you can't talk with this guy. He supports a leftist site or whatever, a racist platform, you know," which he doesn't. And then she just started yelling out a slogan, and that was it. That's all it took. And the crowd just started yelling the slogan, and they all surrounded him. Not a chance for him to speak. I mean, this is a very, very dangerous mentality that you're seeing out there in the public. You can't reason with people like that. You can't share the truth with them. You can't even share the pathway to freedom with them. They just want to go out there and scream and get angry. They don't even know what they're angry about or what they're screaming out. They're just going out there screaming, "We don't like this," but we have no clue what we want.
No.
We just don't like this.
Yes.
You know, so we're going to smash it all and destroy it all, and then we want you to fix it.
Yes.
Now, somebody come and fix it all, please. It's crazy. You know, they'll be sitting there complaining that the shops don't have any food soon. "Oh, you mean the shops that you all went and smashed up, they don't have any food in?" Why do you think that is, you know?
Right.
Why do you think they encourage you to go and smash all the shops to begin with? You know, they were just talking about getting the supply chains back up and running. I mean, Trump wanted to get the trucks running again. Now they're turning all the towns into danger zones, so the trucks aren't going to want to go there. And even if they do go there, they're not going to have a shop to deliver the food to because people are burning them down. But, you know, I mean, a lot of it is contrived as well. You'll find that there's pockets of riots and there's pockets of marches. It's not the whole place, like they're telling you. Even with what happened here in Brisbane, 30,000 people marching on the streets in Brisbane last Saturday. It was all in the Sunday Mail, 30,000 people.
Wow.
I'm an activist and I live 1 hour from Brisbane. I didn't even hear about it. Nobody
Wow.
told me there was a march of 30,000 people in Brisbane.
Huh.
And come to think of it, I can't find anyone that I know who knew that there was a march in Brisbane or who went to the march in Brisbane. So was there actually a march in Brisbane? If there's
Wow.
someone out there listening to this and you were at the march in Brisbane, can you send me an email and tell me what it was like?
And give me
Or
some
am I
pictures.
just seeing a picture from the newspaper with a label on it? And who knows when the photo was taken and what they were doing there?
Really good
I
point.
mean, I'm hearing about these massive protests that happened, but I didn't see it. Why didn't I hear about it? I'm a reasonably well-known person around here. If there's going to be some huge rally in Brisbane, you think I would be one of the people that they would contact, you know?
Wow.
At least let me know that it's going on. You think there would be a post on social media somewhere. I mean, I can't find anybody that I know who went to that rally. So I want to know if the rally even actually happened or is it simply media spin, you know?
That's a great question. And it's so easy and so possible at this point because people read it, they look at it, they see the picture, they walk away, they know it as truth, they don't question it. And this is another thing that, you know, I bring up when people are talking about this, like, this is a grassroots movement and this is, you know, real people and you have to listen to what people are saying. There wouldn't be this much anger and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I get that idea. But just think back to Occupy. Think back to the anti-war movements even in 2003 and whatever. Think back to, I had another one, but I forgot it. But all these movements that we see, we didn't hear about them. They didn't publish stories about them. Even when I was in a 50,000 person march in Seattle back in 2003, they didn't publish anything about it. There was a media blackout about it because they didn't want to be anti-war and promote it. But now we see all this coverage of it. We see talk about Black Lives Matter left and right. We didn't hear about Occupy until they had infiltrated it and were able to take it down from the inside. They don't publish these things until they have them controlled. So the fact that we're even hearing about them so much, I'm like, this is proof to me that these things are controlled and contrived and intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. And these marches, they don't do anything. Back in I think it was 2008, 2009, I put out a film called Fight the New World Order with Global Non-Compliance and New World Order, The Final Solution. Two films that I put out, two short films. And at the end of one of those films, I suggested a 1,000,000-man march on Washington, that everyone just marched, 1,000,000 people marched to Washington. And the next year they did it. A whole bunch of people organized it, and it was actually 2 million people marched on Washington, D.C. There was a big rally. They had speeches and all that sort of stuff. Did you hear about it?
No.
Did anyone hear about it?
No.
You didn't hear about it until after it was gone. People started posting pictures on social media, but there was 2 million people marched to Washington, D.C. But unfortunately, I mean, I'd said you need to just go there and march there and just stand there silently and just stand out the front of the White House and just stand there. You don't have to say anything. Just stand there and say, hey, you know, you guys need to leave the building, you know. But they didn't. They went and marched and they had rallies and then people got up and spoke and then everyone went home and felt like they'd actually done something when they hadn't because, you know,
of course.
that's, I always say when you go to these marches, you know, where are you marching to and what do you intend to do when you get there? You know, what's it for?
Yeah.
What's the goal in doing this? I mean, if you're not going to actually do something, then what are you even doing? You're just going there to have people get up and take all your anger from you and tell you how great you are and make some rhetorical speech and then all go home and think that you actually made a difference. No, you didn't.
Absolutely.
You'd be far better off staying at home and simply occupying yourself. You don't need to go and occupy Wall Street. We already occupy the whole earth. We don't occupy ourselves. Occupy yourself and you'll change the world in a day. You know, this is what I was trying to put out to people. But, you know, you don't hear about these things. You don't hear about a 2 million man march in Brisbane. I mean, in Washington. But then suddenly we see these newspaper articles. Like I said, 30,000 people in Brisbane.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who knows about that or was even there. I mean, how could they pull this off and how could they arrange that without you hearing about it in the media or hearing about it in anything that they're organizing this big event? You know, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't even know whether they did it. I think they may have even used old photos. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they did. I'm not saying they faked the whole thing, but it just seems very, very strange. And I don't think the level of protest that we're seeing reported and the level of riots and violence that we're seeing reported on the news in the United States, I don't think it's actually real either. I think they want to push it into the minds of the people of it being real, because then they can create the excuse they need for this whole second wave and all this to come out. And all, like I said, all the people out there who have been in lockdown and I think are going to blame all the anti-government thinkers, all the truth movement, all the people speaking out about Bill Gates, all this stuff. They're going to blame them for the whole thing. Oh shit, we got to be locked down even more now because you went outside, you broke the rules, you know.
Yep.
So this conspiracy culture, we need more internet censorship. We need to get rid of these people. We need to shut these doctors down who are saying anything against Fauci and Gates. You know, you can see where it's all going to go and how they can play it. Very, very clever.
Absolutely. It is very clever. I hate admitting how good these people are at what they're doing, but they're very good at it. And you're absolutely right. And I'm with you. I mean, it very well could have been a totally fake protest. And you know, we see we see the media pulling this all the time. There was something recently where they had like an image from World War Z and said that this is what was happening currently in like LA or something, you know, that this was what the rioting had made the city look like, and it was literally from a movie. We saw that with another, when they were showing the coronavirus deaths at first, they showed a room full of caskets with flags on them, and that was from a movie actually. So they're just taking fake things and throwing them up as news anyway. It would not be very far off for them to present an entire march as, you know, happening that didn't happen at all. But I wanted to get your ideas too about you know, that well, first I want to reinforce that idea that if you're going to go out and do something, you should probably have a plan in place, right? This is one of the things I've been harping on lately, that you know, the Black Panthers and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, if they were real and those things all actually happened, those people were successful because they had a plan. They went out and they executed the plan. They were very intelligent about it, and they intended to go out and do specific things, and then they did that. And it didn't happen by accident, and it didn't happen because they ran out to the street one day and started screaming and just had an epiphany that, oh, I'll do all these things suddenly. It was like they were very thoughtful, and they saw problems and they went to go, you know, aim and fix them. And that's not what's happening right now at all. And when you do look at what the supposed plans are for, you know, Black Lives Matter, it gets to sounding very, very ridiculous. Their list of demands is insane. And I don't know how normal people get behind it. But I wonder also what you think, because I just heard this morning, and I haven't looked into it, and I don't know if you've heard about it, and it doesn't surprise me at all, but I heard that George Floyd's lawyer is now calling for the UN to come intervene and fix the legal system in the United States, and that fits so perfectly with the agenda.
Yeah, if that's true, I'll be interested. I mean, like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I just woke up, so I have no idea what's going on. If the news is happening so quick, honestly, I mean, I said a couple of reports ago, I mean, I took time off in November because I thought, you know, I've been doing this once a week for 13 years. I need a break. And then the whole world went pear-shaped, and I'm putting out reports 5-6 times a week, you know, and by the time you get them uploaded, it's already old news.
Right.
That's how quick things are changing. But if George Floyd's lawyer has said that, I mean, that is just perfect, isn't it? That just shows you how set up this has been.
Yeah.
You know, what was that speech of Kissinger when he said that today people would be horrified to see UN troops on the streets of America. Tomorrow they will be asking for it, you know.
Wow.
That was years ago. It was a quote similar to that Kissinger said, you know, today they would be horrified, but soon they'll be asking for it. You know, all we need is a contrived threat, either real or promulgated, you know, and the people can be led wherever you want them to go.
And it's so
And if
sad.
that's what they're going to do, bring in UN peacekeepers, because of course you can't trust the police force. We need to disband the Minneapolis police force. They're talking about that, removing funding for $100 million they want to remove from LA police. We can't trust the police anymore. So we have to privatize the police or whatever. Well, we'll just bring in the UN soldiers. We can't put the military on the streets, posse comitatus. We can only bring that in, you know, or threaten to do that if people won't roll out the National Guard. But yes, we can bring the UN in there. I mean, and then you have completely all sorts of national. You have Chinese, you'll have all sorts of people in there on the streets. You know, a lot of the UN soldiers, they're not United States soldiers, so they don't care. You wouldn't have the United States military wanting to fire on United States citizens, but UN soldiers, they don't give a shit. You know, they don't give a shit. Yeah, that's why you send different countries. You know. If you look at Haiti, a lot of the UN soldiers in Haiti are, you know, Mongolians and stuff like this. They're not from anywhere you would expect them to be.
Yeah.
You know, so they're dealing with people who are from a completely different culture. It's the way they move police around as well in your state and in your country. You'll find that your
True.
local cops in your local town, if they develop too much of a friendship with the local community, they'll move away and they'll bring
Yeah.
cops from out of town to populate the police station. And then they change them every year or so in case they start developing too much of a relationship with the people, because they don't want you to be friends with these people. They're the enemy. So they keep moving police around the place, and you've never got cops from your town actually populating your own police station. That's the way they do it. That's why they do it that way, because it removes that personalized connection. So then when you bring the UN into it, you're doing it on a national scale as well, bringing in Chinese people to control the Mongolians, Mongolian people to control the Chinese, you know.
God.
So
Yeah.
that's the way it works, you know.
That's very, very astute, and you're absolutely right. And I want to underscore that because I think it's so easy in our community, the truth slash alternative, whatever community you want to call us, to hate the police and to be anti-police, and really easy. And it's easy, we all see the abuse. We know that there's the corruption, and we know that there's a lot of these people who are in these positions that are horrible people, that really abuse that. But like you said, imagine if you were allies with your local police, and imagine if they wouldn't ever turn on you because you have this relationship, and imagine if they did have character and a heart, and many of them do. And imagine how powerful that would be. And I always like to point out these are our best possible allies because of the power that they hold. And if you can find them, and if they remember that they have a heart and that they're human beings, and there's a reason why those tactics that you're talking about are employed, and it's exactly to keep that from happening, because it would be such a powerful thing. And it's terrifying to think of the UN coming into any country. Like you said, these people don't know the culture. They don't care about the country necessarily. They're completely detached, and they're going to enforce the rule of some organization I have nothing to do with, and I have no power or control over. I don't know how the UN, it doesn't respond to me, but these people will work for them. So what do we have in common? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, looking at the state of the United States at the moment, if you look at how countries how when you go in and take over a country, what they did with Iraq when they went in there and they put the military vehicles all around the place, so they've been mobilizing the military all around the United States. They put military depots everywhere, so they got all the vehicles ready, they got everything ready to roll out. If the UN comes in, they'll probably need vehicles. They won't be using their own, so they'll be using the US military vehicles. And when you think of the military rule that you've put in place in other countries like Iraq and in Syria and Libya, El Salvador, all of the places the United States has gone. Well, this is how they do it, and this is what you will see coming to your own streets
Right.
if they can create enough violence on the ground. And they don't even really need the violence; they only need the perception of violence. They don't need to go and smash up one town like
True.
Minneapolis or whatever,
Yeah.
and put it out there in the media. The people will believe it because it was on the TV. You just show them all the pictures and show them all the footage. You get footage from movies, like you say. It doesn't have to be real footage.
No.
And speaking about footage from movies, and recently it was the Irish Prime Minister, or the Irish. I think he was the Prime Minister. Vala, I can't pronounce his name. I can't pronounce any of these people's names. I don't know where they all come from.
Yeah.
But, it starts with a V. I think it was the Prime Minister, but he actually, in his COVID speech, near the end of the speech, he actually quoted a line from Lord of the Rings, as part
Wow.
of COVID speech, how, these are going through darker times and we're moving into I can't remember the actual line, but it was said by Sam Gamgee at the flooding of Isengard, how these are dark times and we're heading to better areas and better times, and this is just the storm that's coming, and it was directly out of Lord of the Rings. I mean, I don't know who his speechwriter is, but all he said was, "Oh, a wise man once said," and he quoted this line. I mean, wise man was bloody J.R.R. Tolkien in a fantasy novel, and this is what you're applying to Irish politics. I mean, give me a break,
Wow.
That's how contrived it is. That's
Yeah.
how scripted all this is. Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard to watch and to wonder how people are taking this in. I watched last night. I think it was the Minneapolis mayor go out to the Black Lives Matter protest, and he's wearing like jeans and a t-shirt, like he's just one of the normal people or whatnot. And so it's already like stagecraft. And then he goes up, he's got his mask on, and he's like, and the people are screaming, and they're like, you better like kneel, and you have to like promise that you're gonna defund the police, and if you don't promise this, then we're voting you out. And it was just, and I don't remember what he even said, but whatever he said they didn't like. They all started screaming at him, calling him racist, and he like did the walk of shame away. And I was like, what? How did you hold yourself up as a human being and then put yourself in this situation and act like a dog? Like, this is just disgusting to watch, and I don't know how anyone can vote for you, whether they agree with you or not after this, because you completely debased yourself. All these people kneeling, this like, oh, it's so gross to watch. All of those politicians kneeling in the congressional halls yesterday, I think, and they're wearing their totally, completely patronizing, slightly African culture scarves, and they look like the scarves of a priest, and it just looks like it looks like they're like summoning demons or like kneeling and bowing to demons. Like, it's so creepy. Have you seen those?
I haven't seen it. It must have happened since I went to bed last night, and then like I said, the music's going so fast that it's so difficult to keep up with.
It's
But
gross.
it would make sense that they would be doing this because they want to show how embarrassed they are and how far the police have gone wrong. And like if George Floyd's lawyer is calling for the UN to come in, this just makes such perfect sense. And where would it better be to be coming from? Is George Floyd's lawyer black? I suppose he's black. It would have to be black, wouldn't
That's
he?
a good question. Probably, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, so you got a black man calling for the UN to come in right in the middle of this whole Black Lives Matter protest after a black man's been killed. Perfect sense. How else can they bring the UN in and get people to actually buy it?
Wow.
Turn it into a heartfelt humanitarian gesture from this honest black man who's worried about this other black man dying. I mean, it's so contrived. It's so utterly contrived. And the whole world would go along with it because, Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
and this terrible thing that happened to George Floyd and the way he knelt on his neck and all, it's so contrived. Police violence is bad, government violence is bad, but it isn't a matter of a white cop killing a black man. It's a man murdered by the state, another man murdered by the state, another woman murdered by the state. It's all the state. So what's the solution? Well, we'll bring in the international state to fix the state. Yeah, that's gonna work, isn't it?
Even less.
Incredible how easily people are led, darling. It really is. All lives matter, but you can't say that now. If you say all lives matter, you're a racist. Right. That's incredible. Amazing thing, amazing thing how it all works.
It is amazing. Yeah, and we can talk about all day about racism. I mean, I've traveled around the world. You have as well, and I wonder what you think. Literally, the United States is the least racist place I've ever been. There is such blatant, obvious, horrifying racism everywhere else I've been. So blatant and horrible. Not necessarily against black people, right? Against whatever race that local country, nation,
whatever the minority is
hated. Yeah, whatever the minority is.
Yeah, whatever the minority is, or whoever's left over from the last invasion. You know what I mean? Like you go to Czechoslovakia, and all the German people in there are hated because they're left over from World War II. They're the ethnic minority, so they're treated terribly. Stuff like that. So yeah, it's everywhere. Wherever there's the minority, you're the ones that are hated.
Yes, and honestly, in the United States, I think we've done a pretty good job of getting past it and trying to make sure that that's not something that's codified, and that obviously racism is going to exist, but it's just interesting that this is exploding in the place that I've noticed is the least racist place I've ever been. And I'm sure people are going to say that's my white privilege, but whatever.
Yeah, white privilege. I've never been privileged. I've traveled all around the world, and I've never encountered racism. I've encountered more racial slurs against white people than anybody. But it's okay to say, whitey, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But okay, you fob it off. Don't worry about it. But I've never actually encountered any racism with anybody. I mean, I know it exists, but I have Aboriginal friends, tribal friends. Some of these people are brutalised by the Australian government. I've got to admit that. They really are horribly oppressed by the Australian government. Massive genocide has been carried out in this country. But on my personal life, I've never experienced racism from another person or with another person, and I've been to all cultures all around the world, and I've gotten on great with everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody's gotten on great with me. So on a personal level, I've never experienced it, and I've never actually witnessed it.
Yeah.
I've never seen bouncers beat up someone just because of the color of their skin. And I've worked in nightclubs my whole life and stuff. So, I mean, I hear about it, but and I'm aware that it does happen, but
Yeah.
I've never actually personally experienced any of it. So, and that's in 60 years of life. So,
Wow, that's a really interesting point in itself. It makes you think.
Well, a lot of it is media perception. It's the perception of racism. You go and beat up someone, and like I said, there are people who are beaten up, but when it's used as a political tool, this isn't speaking out against racism. And sure, racism does happen, and I'm fortunate that I've never personally experienced it. But when you start using it as a political tool in a political football, like they've done with George Floyd's murder, and you see how there's such an agenda to it, because you can't separate it from COVID, and you can't separate it from Agenda 21. You can't separate it from the UN plan. You've got to, the world is moving so fast at the moment that you can't separate any of these things. Even with what happened here in Australia and early in the year with the fires and how they burn out all the food stocks and burn all the wildlife. I mean,
Yeah.
no one even remembers Australia was burning. That was way, way back in January,
Way
you know?
back. Yeah.
Like, yeah, way back, like 5 months ago, like ancient history,
Wow.
It's incredible. We've had massive fires, massive floods. We've nearly gone to war with Iran. We were worried about war with Iran in February, remember? And then we've had this lockdown, we've had COVID, we had mass pandemic, mass deaths and stuff in China. How is all this video footage being leaked out of China to begin with, to get all this mindset in people? You know how hard it is to take videos in China and get it
Yeah.
out without the government knowing? They don't
Right.
even have access to the real internet in China the way we do. You go to
Right.
China, you can't use Google, you can't use Facebook, you can't do any of the stuff you wanted to do. So how on earth were any of these videos getting out to begin with?
Yeah.
They got all these ghost cities in China with no one there. You got this army of 10 million or whatever. How hard would it be to get a few thousand of those army soldiers, say, well, here's your script, go over there, dress up like this. We're going to run this whole program. We pretend there's a pandemic, and we're going to spray the streets. We're going to video it all. We're going to throw it all out to the West, and we're going to freak them out and make them think that there's a pandemic,
True.
because it's all part and parcel to the same thing, because all the governments are working together. And also, while we're doing that, well, we can round up a few dissidents and get rid of all these people in Wuhan that are protesting and say that they're all pandemic victims and we need to put them in quarantine.
Yeah.
How hard would it be to contrive this whole thing? I don't think there even was a pandemic in Wuhan. I don't believe anything they've told us about this, frankly, now that I look back at it all. How the hell do you have a huge pandemic in China like that, build all these hospitals, and pull them all down a month later, and all the numbers drop up? No more pandemic. If there was really a pandemic and that amount of people in China with that close proximity and the amount of dirt in Wuhan, I mean, this would have spread out across the country like wildfire and wiped out a third of the Chinese population. Didn't do any of that,
No.
It's like, the Chinese threw a party, invited everybody, and then China left and said,
Yeah.
enjoy your party.
Have a fun
You know?
party. Bye.
Yeah,
That's a great point. It's absolutely, and I'm with you. I have no, I have no trust in any of these things that they're even real. And I think the same thing, like you were saying about these protests and stuff. I have no idea that they're as big as they say they are. When I see anything local, it's very small, very tame, and very nonviolent. And so I just have no way of trusting what they say. But isn't it interesting, too, that when we were waiting for all this, I think, at least for me, for the past 10 years or however long we've been waiting for, them to start really rolling in the, final plan or the final stages of the plan, if that's what we're in now, I was expecting a fake alien invasion this whole time. I was expecting Project Bluebeam and something fantastical and, and here we are, and it's a fake virus and some riots. That's going to be
Well,
the
yeah,
very
I
best.
think Project Bluebeam was an option, but I think that too many people knew about that. But this pandemic is perfect, and you can kind of see this coming. It was James Corbett said medical martial law a few years ago. I think he put out a video. He said medical martial law is where we're going. Through the fear of a virus, and all the movies that have come out, Contagion, and all these movies that have come out about viruses in the last few years, World War Z, uh, I don't even think any of these things are really contagious, but they've really set up the mindset for this. And I don't believe anything that I hear from the media either anymore. I don't believe a word of it. So much of it is contrived, and I don't think there is any pandemic. And like you say, we've been expecting this for a long, long time. And it's kind of been surprising to see how many people have actually gone along with it, how many people believe it, how many people are just doing what they're told. That's the freaky part,
Yeah.
is that so many people are prepared to believe it without any evidence whatsoever. And that's been kind of disturbing. But yeah, I've expected. I mean, I'm kind of enjoying the ride. I say, bring it on. I mean, you're waking more and more people up, and you know, this has got to come to a head at some time. And I have no stake in the outcome of this experience.
Right.
You know, it's what we've always expected, and I think they're rolling it out too quickly, and too many people will get it in the end. So yeah, I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I'm not part of that system.
Yeah.
The world hasn't really changed for me. I'm still doing what I've done for the last 10, 15 years, you know, and I don't involve myself in that system. I haven't even noticed the lockdown, the people that have been locked down, because I only ever go out and go to the supermarket when I need some supplies, and
Totally.
I stay home most of the time. So I live in a nice place. I don't go into town unless I absolutely have to.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of been interesting to see, and it's been. I knew it was going to happen this year. I knew it. I was been telling people, 2020 vision. Watch out for 2020, folks, because. And I said back in 2012 when people said it was a non-event, I said no, something shifted. Something shifted in the consciousness, and I said then, wait for 2020, because, you know, 8 years from 2012, you've got the 8, which is infinity, the symbol of completion.
Yeah.
I said, and why do they call it 2020 vision? You know, why not 100%? Why 10-10? You know, I think in 2020, the veil will fall down and we're going to see everything clearly just the way it is.
Wow.
And I think that's what's happening. So, you know, I'm kind of enjoying the ride in a way. The place has gone crazy. It's just a freak show now. You can't get any sense out of anyone.
No.
It's ridiculous. You can't even really report a crime anymore. They're not interested. I mean, it's crazy. The whole world's just gone crazy. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe people will see how ridiculous the lives they were living was. Maybe there'll be an opportunity in this. Maybe all the people who lose their jobs and all the small businesses that go down, maybe they'll see how ridiculous it all was and how they were just sitting there on the treadmill collecting paper. You know, maybe they won't allow themselves to get led into the welfare state, which is what they're trying to do. So, you know, it's opportunity for all of us. And I see nothing negative about the impending crash of the current slavery system.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what we do with that. And there's a huge opportunity here for some really positive thought and some really positive action, and a real opportunity to disconnect from all of this. So, you know, the fat lady hasn't sung yet. So, yeah, it's all going to go the way it's supposed to go, darling. And I think we probably do this every time, every cycle. And, you know, it's all opportunity. So, yeah, I say bring it on. I have no fear at all of what these people are going to do. Like I said, I have no stake in the outcome. You know, the ability to be able to face infinity without flinching, that's the way through this. You know, it's an opportunity for us to see how stupid this whole system is and has been, how easily people are led, and how easy it would be to lead ourselves. So maybe that will come out of it.
I love that idea. I love that vision for the 2020 perfect vision that we get out of this, hopefully. And I'm totally with you. It's I think harder in the moment, you know, if a soldier shows up to my house and has like a gun to my head to literally feel no fear, but in the abstract, in the general, you know, I have no fear as well. And I think the closer we can get ourselves to that point where we realize, you know, we're a spiritual being, we're having a physical experience, and we're going to go back to our spiritual being. No matter what happens, that's how the cycle goes. You know, we will return to that. So that's guaranteed. You know, and in the meantime, it's sort of like this game, this experience we're having. And it's serious in a way, you know, like you want to do your best. You want to like have things turn out the best that you can. But like you say, in the end, I feel like it goes the way it's going to go. And you know, my thing that I get sort of stuck on is that I want to like wake as many people up as possible, and I want to like shake them and be like, look at this. And I have to continually let go of that need, because nobody can be woken up who's not ready to wake up, and nobody can be reasoned with who's not feeling curious and reasonable, you know, and I can't force these things, but I get so disappointed. Those are the one thing I still get caught up on, is I just really, really want that. And I get so disappointed over and over again that I can't do it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of non-playing characters here as well that you'll never wake up.
I wonder about that.
And I think you've got to enjoy the ride and enjoy the experience and enjoy the rabbit hole and enjoy the adventure of looking for the truth as well. You've got to make sure you enjoy what you're doing. If you're
Yeah.
doing what you're doing out of fear, you're in the wrong energy. There's a conversation I had with a guy who contacted me recently called Anthony White, his name is, and he sent me a book called Simulation of Consciousness Instruction Manual.
Huh.
And he sent me a little bit of a chat the other day. And what you were saying about this being a game, this is something that I got in that experience that I had in February, was that this is a game.
Right.
We're involved in a game, and it's played in levels. And what he said in this book he sent me, and I totally agree with it. And I haven't actually read the book yet, but he sent me a audio recording the other day as well.
Cool.
And he said that something people don't understand about humankind is that we come from source, we come from God, we come from whatever you want to call it, and we live in a place of unconditional love. And that's all we know. And we come here to experience duality. We come here to get away from that, just to have a break and to come and actually do something. And we come here, and half of the reason we come here is to play a game. And that we've come here in this reality and kind of like red team has chosen that we want to be angels. We want to just be angels and live in peace on earth. And blue team, they want to fight. They want to fight. So it's going to get to the point, they're just going to keep pushing until we fight back. And it's got to the point we're going to have to fight back at some stage. And it doesn't matter. It's impossible. I don't want to hurt anybody. It's really impossible to hurt anybody if you're in a simulation.
True.
And it's whether you will stand up for yourself. How much shit are you prepared to put on you before you will push back and say, hey, I have as much value as you, and if you don't like it, well, bang, you're gone, because you don't matter, because you're trying to inflict yourself on me. So why am I going to try to protect you and save you and convince you to do the right thing? Fuck off. You know. When are we going to have that attitude? And that's what he said, is that half of the reason for Earth to exist and for these souls to be here is so we can experience duality, because we live constantly in a state of oneness. And I said on an interview recently, if you were God, if you were some divine being and you were just there, this all-powerful being, it'd be an incredibly lonely place to be. What would you do with it?
Boring and
You'd
lonely.
want someone to talk to. What about if you shattered your consciousness and threw it into reality to experience duality, so you could have every single possibility? What would you do with that supreme consciousness? You'd want to do something with it. Otherwise, you're just there going, wow, I'm God. How long can you have that thought for? So, and it was an interesting concept. I really liked the way he said it, is that, we come from that. And we come here to have a break from it, to do this for a while, and incredible things can be discovered, and incredible experiences can be had. And the only thing that limits us is our belief of what is true. And that's why it doesn't matter about the shape of the world either. It can be anything you believe it to be. It doesn't matter. It's not what it's about. That has nothing to do with the experience of duality. Everyone's trying to get away from duality. Well, you're going to die in a minute, and you're going to be back to that. You don't ever worry about getting away from duality. You're going to do that as soon as you die. And that's a given. That's what you came here to do. It's just a little temporary experience in this game arena. So, and we come here and we do this. And it's an interesting thought. And I think it's an interesting way to look at things. And it maybe that will inspire people to stand up for themselves, because that's really what it's all about. It's everything this system does is to take you away from being you, and to push you, and to see how far you will allow yourself to be pushed. And the only reason you're scared of pushing back is because you're scared of dying, which is the only thing that you came here to do. It's a given. It's one part of it that's inevitable. So how much am I going to take to get away from that one bit where I have to leave the game? You're going to have to leave the game anyway, eventually. What do you want to be while you're in the game? You want to be this little turd that's being stomped on, or you want to be a hero and a king and a whatever, to be all that you could be, create all this potential offers for you? Or you're just going to sit there and do what you're told, sir? Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir. Give me my welfare check, and I'll go and buy some, Pop-Tarts. It's ridiculous,
Oh, I'm 100% with you. And I think that that is a beautiful thought to wrap up on, because I do think that is most people's sort of need in life, is to find where they're going to draw their lines and how they're going to actually make sure that they never break down past that, what they've chosen to be and what they've chosen to stand for. No matter what fear puts in your mind as the possible outcome. And I think that's a beautiful reminder for all of us to get as close to that as we can. And I think I'm just going to add that part of the way we do that is by, finding our sort of emotional blockages where they're at, because those fears that we have are all wrapped up in exactly what you just described. And I think we got to kind of unravel them the best we can, so that when we get to those points where we can draw those lines and stand tall, we're as ready as we can be. And unfortunately, this has to be a really short show for us today. So I do want to have you remind people of where they can find you, even though I think they all know and already follow you, but just, in case the random person comes along and hasn't seen it yet. And then also tell us, your sort of last thoughts of the episode that you want to leave us with.
Well, you'll find everything about me at thecrowhouse.com. That's my website. It's all free. You'll find all my links to all the other spaces there. I'm kicked off Facebook now. They banned me. But that's the way it goes. I'm still on YouTube. And, I just hope people see the opportunity through this. I mean, don't move into the fear. You're finally in a situation where, the whole system is breaking down. You should not fear the collapse of the slavery system. The only thing you're fearing is the fact that you may have to actually take responsibility for yourself, and the fact that you may have to step into your personal power. And really, that's an opportunity. Because everything this system has done has been designed to take that away from you. And, like I said, they'll keep pushing until we push back, and we can push back in the right way. All we have to do is connect with ourselves and connect with the people around us and just walk away from this. I keep saying to people, you want the revolutions and the riots and the virus and all this stuff to go away, turn off your television, turn off your social media, and it all goes away. It's really that simple. So, yeah, it's a great opportunity for us to get in touch with ourselves, and hopefully people will do that.
I love it. What a beautiful thought. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to the great sage Max Igan. Max, thank you so much for spending this short time with us today.
My pleasure, Dale. We'll do it again soon. We'll make up for it.
Awesome. All right, guys. The world around you may quake. You are rooted deep. The skies around you may rain down horrors, but you are firm in your place between heaven and earth. The winds of change may swirl a torrent of swiftness straight through your center, but you bend like the reed and are not torn away from where you exist. The sun may burn fire like the infernos of hell, but you are quenched from an eternal well. The entirety of all that exists around you can tumble and fall, shaken from the foundations by forces beyond your control, but you are eternal and your foundations cannot shake away anything that is truly you. So stand rooted, tall, centered, firm, quenched, and whole, because nothing can stop you. And until you know it as a truth and live that truth all day, every day, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Nasty motherfuckers with a hook and a sickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers with reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast upon the dapper. Bloody bibs and muddy kicks, feasting on amygdalas. Iron fist, tyrant shit, APO will rip you up. The rhyme rainmaker, Bane style backbreaker. Genghis Khan depleted uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard of me. No rusted tools used for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect a whole set, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad, dusted towels, no rags. Straight milk dash, dust to ash. Turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose, my service touches the sun's surface. And rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons, cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet, lungs depleted and can't breathe, can't believe it. Trying to seek it while trying to peep it, it's a secret. Now you're nobody, label somebody, trying to claim John Gotti. It's yours truly,